is so very, very good to see you here this morning, and I'm truly glad that you're here. There are any number of reasons why you could have chosen not to attend our service this morning. You might still be recovering and rejoicing from a wonderful evening at our church auction and dinner last Friday night. You might also have chosen to be out enjoying the beautiful weather, just as our children are over in at Daggett Park and having their classes. Or you might have forgotten to fall back and gotten to church an hour early, which I understand at least one of us did this morning. So he's enjoying the reflection twice, and I appreciate that. But I do very, very much appreciate your dedication and your participation at Westside. We need you here. We need you here as often as possible, and we look forward to seeing you here. When the worship team and I were working on scheduling our pulpit speakers, knowing that Russell would be gone starting this Sunday, he was, of course, scheduled to speak at the time, but we began to talk about pulpit supply and all, and I thought that had the bright idea that it would be nice as church president maybe that I offer the first reflection following his departure. I thought you might want to hear from your Westside leadership, and it sounded like a reasonable expectation. Even knowing that it fell right in the middle of many other events at Westside, including the Progressive Dinner and Auction, for which Myron and I were the chairs. So as the Sunday drew closer, I did begin to question my ability to even pull this off. And as the weekend got here, I really began to question it. Here I am. And you see that if I were speaking to a room full of choral music educators, or brand new teachers about classroom management techniques, or college students ready to embark on their new careers, as I often do, I would have absolutely no qualms whatsoever about my presentation this morning. I feel qualified to present valuable information to that type of an audience. But you are my Westside family. You're my peers and you're my community. And I have feelings of, what could I possibly have to share with you this morning? And I must say it's also a little daunting, being the first speaker after Russell's departure. I hope that you'll not compare our styles. Russell sometimes mentioned how difficult it was for him to write the reflection blurb, the teaser that appears in the newsletter or insert. When you write that several weeks in advance of the reflection, it's way before you've actually developed your topic. Sometimes our thoughts take completely different turns and the reflection comes together in a totally different way than is intended. And that's exactly what happened to me as well. I started out with 3 or 4 expressions in mind that I carry with me as life lessons, pearls of wisdom. But upon further thinking, I realized that there are actually many more expressions that I believe to be pertinent to our transitional time at Westside. I think these cliches, if you will, can carry special importance and meaning in our lives. Some of them will stick with us, maybe because of the person with whom you associate the expression. Or maybe there was a significant time in your life when it had special meaning to you. Whatever the case, we hear some of these expressions all the time, and we can utilize that implied wisdom in countless situations. I must also say that I have begun to find it rather ironic that my topic has taken this turn as well. You see, I am one of those, and you've all known someone like me, who mixes her cliches. If my husband, Myron, were able to be here this morning, he would be able to definitely share a lot of stories. I'm the one who never remembers the punchline to the joke, and I typically begin one expression and end with another. But I'll do my best this morning to present them in their original form and order so that you will recognize and hopefully remember them. I've also decided to present them in a top 10 format, a la David Letterman. And while I'm not necessarily a big Letterman fan, I've always appreciated the top 10 lists. So here we go. These are Linda's top 10 expressions that could come in handy for our Westside community over the next several months. Number 10, nothing remains the same. And I hate that. change is difficult. And the older I get, the less adaptable I have become to change. Whether it be your favorite restaurant closing, or maybe a store that discontinues an item that they always carried, it's aggravating. We sometimes simply don't want to adjust. We don't want to modify, and we don't want to change. Many of us love that comfortable feeling of knowing what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and maybe even when exactly it's going to happen. Yes, you guessed it, and I'm referring to the "we've always done it that way before" syndrome. But don't worry, I'm not suggesting that we should implement a fruit basket turnover. In fact, I would more likely suggest the exact opposite. There's no reason to change just for the sake of change. We have many, many wonderful things going for us here at Westside, and we need to continue to build on this foundation. I would suggest, though, that over the next several years, we be open to making slight modifications along the way to tweak and make things even better, more appropriate for our growing congregation. I believe this to be one of the greatest benefits of going through the interim process, which we have chosen to do. It will give us the opportunity to take a look at ourselves and determine our future together. Number 9, nothing is ever as bad as it seems. This was a favorite expression of Myron's mom, Lee, who many of you had the privilege of knowing. And you know, I believe that she was right. In the grand scheme of things, something that seems so devastating and unbearable when compared to another's life circumstance, all of a sudden becomes very insignificant. Earlier, I mentioned how adapting to change seems to be more difficult as I get older. But an advantage that I have found to getting older is that I begin to gain better perspective. It's a matter of balance. There was a point in my career that earning that sweepstakes trophy at a UIL concert and sight reading contest was how I measured the success of my entire school year, my ability as a choral director. But as the years went by, I learned that there were so many other measures of success in the classroom. And thankfully, my perspective did change. I would ask myself right before contest, world peace or a sweepstakes trophy? Which is really more important? And it was not the trophy. It was fun, but it was not the trophy. So while Russell's departure could be seen as a bad thing for Westside, I encourage us to remember that his departure could have been under a completely different set of circumstances, leaving our church in a much more vulnerable state. But as it is, we are a strong community with purpose and direction, and keeping perspective of what we hold most dear, we will thrive. Number 8, this too shall pass. Let's try to remember that this period of transition is only temporary. The wheels are already in motion for the next step toward ministerial leadership for Westside, and we all know how quickly life and time passes. It will feel like we've barely turned around a couple of times, and then we'll be preparing for the arrival of our next settled minister. I am not in any way suggesting, though, that we let go of the legacy that Russell has left us. As we have all said, in one way or another, under Russell's leadership, we have grown in thought and action, and we should honor this legacy by continuing to move forward. It's this time of transition and the sense of loss that will pass, but not his influence. Number 7, winners never quit and quitters never win. A somewhat trite expression indeed, but given some serious consideration, it's very, very true. Look at the people that you have known in your own life that have pushed through, even under the most dire of circumstance. Talk to the many people who have battled disease in their lifetime. They didn't quit. They didn't even have that choice. There are some who move from job to job, hobby to hobby, friend to friend, relationship to relationship, looking for that perfect situation. But it's been my experience that there is no perfect. We have to stick with something long enough to effect change and compromise some of our individual needs and desires for the good of the community. Number 6, consider the source. Now this is the one that I can still hear my sweet mom, who passed away several years ago. She would say that to me in tough situations. It's gotten me through a lot in dealing with others through the years. Try to listen with an open ear. Consider the background of the person with whom you may have discussion or maybe disagree, and try to see the challenging situation from their perspective. You may very well still disagree, but at least you understand more the source of why they may feel the way they do. And in doing so, you will more likely be able to find common ground on which to find that resolution. And to me, this expression can also refer to that actual source of the negative that you're hearing. Is this person one who is typically critical? A person who has a more pessimistic outlook on many things? And if so, then that source may not be the voice to whom you should be listening. Some people thrive on being unhappy. We all know those people. It's as if that actually does make them happy. And just as positive energy promotes positive energy, negative energy can also be dangerously contagious. Number 5, patience is a virtue. And I say yes, absolutely it is. Back to my career, having taught in a middle school choir room for 30 years. I know I don't look old enough, but I did. Maybe I did. I can safely say that to have survived, I must have been born with an excessive amount of patience. But I'm also proud to say that it has served me well. I do have patience for those who are learning and growing and wanting to improve, which, despite what you may have heard or might think, actually does describe most 12, 13, and 14-year-olds. I'll also be the first to admit that I have very little patience for the opposite. I will continue to be diplomatic, but my patience has run dry for those types of situations. In those cases, I go right back to number 6. Consider the source. And then I work to recognize what they may be, why they may be making these comments or requests. And I also find it best to not say what is at the forefront of my brain at that very moment, but rather take a breath, do a really fast, quick talk, self-talk, and then I respond. I have found that thoughtful, well-planned rebuttals are far more effective than knee-jerk responses. Number 4, we should try to turn things up on the end a little. That was another Lee Ice-ism. Make that extra effort. It will always pay off. People will appreciate the fact that you went the extra mile. And something as simple as turning a conversation away from you and inquiring about the other person's life, their family, their profession, or possibly their journey to Westside. Going out of your way and giving up your time and talent can really be quite rewarding. I would encourage us to continue to keep in mind how we present ourselves in all settings. Are we making a good first impression on our guests? And I personally believe that at this time we absolutely do. And I hope we will continue to do so. Number 3, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So hang in there. There's a light at the end of each and every tunnel, and together we will get there. This transition will take time. And as Russell suggested last week, our Westside community is entering into a state of limbo. And we will be there for a little while. But I truly believe that this can also be a time for us to connect at a different level. Sometimes times of change and challenge has the potential of bringing out the very best in people. You might find a niche at Westside that you didn't even realize was possible. So please be open to those opportunities and see how you can help move us through the tunnel. And number 2, be ready to break into song. Don't worry, be happy. Thank you. I don't whistle. Yeah, that's good. As simplistic as this sounds, it really can be good advice. We're in a situation that we can't change, and it won't help or make things happen any faster to worry or to be anxious. So we might as well be happy. Everyone is more productive when they are happy, and I think you may all agree. This might be a good time to reflect on the dinner and auction that many of us enjoyed this past Friday evening. I think you would say, too, that the enthusiasm in that Sendera Hall was contagious. I don't think I heard any concern about ministerial transitions the entire evening. You may have, but I didn't, and I appreciate your not sharing it with me Friday. We just all had an evening filled with happy. When Russell announced that his relocation to Chicago would be effective at the end of October, my heart sank, as yours probably did too, and for many reasons. But one was realizing that he and Gail would not be there for the auction this year. And not only would they not be there, but they would have just left a precious few days before. That meant we had a vast range of emotion that we felt in those very few days, going from kind of sadness to the ultimate high on Friday night. But the reality was that while Russell and Gail were greatly missed, it gave us the opportunity to celebrate our community as a whole. We are a strong, loving, and generous group who really know how to throw a party. And to me, that's what is most evident. We set our worries aside tonight and focus on all that is good about Westside. And while I wish I could, I really wish I could, but Mary Alice is sitting right there, we are not quite prepared to report our total amount of money raised. Because as Caroline indicated too, we're still taking money in today. So we're not there yet, which is exciting. From what I've been told, though, the auction was wildly, wildly successful. I can safely share that we did definitely surpass our last auction's proceeds of $18,200. We definitely. We'll just let you know as soon as we can. It might be in the form of an email blast later this week or something. We'll hear like parties going all around and fireworks and stuff, or we may just wait till next week so we can see the expression on their faces. I don't know. But we'll let you know as soon as we can. But possibly more important than the monetary proceeds, we made remarkable strides in our outreach to the greater community. You may not realize, but of the approximately 210 people that attended, there were about 70 who were not members of our Westside community. And from all accounts, I think they had a great time too. As we put on the printed invitation to these folks, you need not think alike to love alike. And I believe that this was probably the greatest success of the auction this year. We reached out to our friends and our family who may not share our same religious perspective, but they share our desire to be a fair-minded, loving, caring people. And I, for one, am incredibly proud of that fact. So to those of you who were not able to join us, you got to make plans to be there. We don't know the date yet, but in 2 more years. So mark out November, maybe. I don't know. And if you were able to join us, we are so glad that you took the time to be there with us and just to not worry and just hang out and be happy on Friday night. And the number one expression that could come in handy for our Westside community over the next several months is, all will be well. And yes, that's what our very own Minister Emeritus, Russell Sullivan, suggested to us on July 21st, the Sunday that he announced his departure. I will forever associate this expression now with Russell. As hard as it is to wrap our heads and our hearts around, he's right. All will be well. It will take time and it will take hard work. But Westside has the potential to come out on the other side stronger and more connected than we are today. I invite you to come on this journey with us. You have made the first step by being here this very first morning when it would have been so easy to say, nah, Russell won't be speaking, so I think I'll just not go. And I must share to you also that I've been humbled by the number of people who apologized to me in advance for not being here today, maybe due to previous travel or family plans or spouses who landed themselves in the hospital. They wanted to make sure that I knew that they do support Westside, and they do support me personally, but they just couldn't be here today. I really appreciated knowing that their commitment, though, to Westside remains strong. That's what counts. I have great, great hope for us. This congregation is just beginning its 20th year of vital existence. As a thoughtful, progressive voice in Fort Worth. Next year in the fall, we'll be recognizing that rich heritage on the occasion of our 20th anniversary. And we want you to be a part of that milestone celebration. I look forward to your continued service, your participation, and your commitment to Westside. Find your place with us if you have not yet done so. And there are so many opportunities to serve and to be served. Ask questions. Challenge us to be the best religious community that we can be. I want you to know, too, that I am proud, honored, humbled, and happy to hold this position of congregational leadership for this period in our church history. And I'm excited to share the upcoming journey with you. As we rise in body or spirit, please join me in singing our closing hymn.